My name is Tufik. I'm a digital accessibility advocate. I've been in this field for a while. So how I come to learn about digital accessibility is I was a web developer, and my manager took us to an accessibility lab a couple of years back where we watched people with disability using assistive technology to assist the website. Back then, I was just out of school, and I created a website where I make the bullet list with this kind of shiny diamond, and I thought that was extremely cool, and they're gonna offer me a permanent job because of that. And then I was sitting there watching someone, took them maybe 30 seconds, but it felt like 2 hours for me, where they're using a voice recognition device where they're speaking to the cursor. They go like cursor up, cursor down, cursor up, cursor down, trying to get to click on the link that I built, that I thought that was extremely cool. Then it made me realize, okay, so I spent all that time to build something that if I didn't spend any time and left it the default way it was, it will be more accessible to, to everyone. So before we start, this is my second Drupal conference meetup kind of thing that I attended, and I'm always impressed by the number of times I hear the word accessibility when I come to the Drupal event. So just to start, what a web accessibility is, the level of usability of a website for people with disability. So there's two keywords there, usability and person with disability. So you cannot talk about UX and user experience and so on without considering people with disability. And why it's important? This guy here, do know a thing or two about the web. So the power of the web is in universality. Access by everyone, regardless of disability, is an essential aspect. So the idea of this talk, I was in a conference 2 years ago in Montreal, a programmer conference, developer conference, and at the speaker's dinner, the person next to me said, "Oh, what are you talking about?" So I said, "Accessibility." I go, "Oh yeah, it's important, but you know, it's like small number of people use our website, so that's fine. We don't need that." Then I go like, "No, actually," so I gave him a reason why. Then they go like, "Okay, well, it's hard to implement. That's fine. We're just gonna ask the web developer at the end to do it," and so on. And then I go like, "Okay, you know what? I think I can do a talk out of this." So this is my 2023 talk, and I think this is the 6th time that I present that talk. Usually it's a 45-minute talk. So I'll put that in 20 minutes. So what I did, there's lots of slides that I left at the end. My slides are available. So if someone wanted to read them, they're available. So the first one is accessibility affects small group of users. So beside being an accessibility advocate, I like numbers. I'm like nerds for numbers. 6.2 million, which is 22% of Canadian age 15 and older, have a disability. And if you can look at that graph here, it's in all group ages, like 15 to 24 years old, there's 13%. Because sometimes we would think that disability will come only when you get older. But if you look at that, 20% of the working age group, which is 25 to 64, do have a disability. In the States, it's 26%. 1 in 4 adult person do have a disability. Around the world, it's 1 in 6, which is 1.3%. It's the world's largest minority that anyone can be part of it at any time. So assuming you say, all right, 1.3 billion user, I don't need them, all right. So the second myth is accessibility benefit person with disability only. This is one of my favorite slides. It's from the Microsoft Design Toolkit, which is showing the different type of disability and what they refer to as permanent disability, temporary disability, and situational disability. So if you look at the first example, touch, so if you have a permanent disability, it's a person with 1 arm. So if you're creating a website or an app to use in the mobile, and it will require both hands to use. So if you have a permanent disability, like a person with 1 arm, won't be able to use it. So this is what it's fit with having a disability, like a permanent one. But you can also have a temporary disability, which is if you went and ski, you get an accident, you broke your arm, you cannot use it, so now you're using 1 hand to operate. Or it can be a situational. If you're a new parent holding a baby and you need to pay your bill, order medication from the pharmacy and so on, everything is online now. So that's a situational disability. Here's a graph will show you the average user in the middle, but it can tell you with people with disability, one of the far ends, which is I just described, then people getting older. I mean, spoiler alert, we're all getting older, right? I wear glasses. 10 years ago, my vision was better than what it's now. And I'm hoping in 10 years from now, it's at least what it is now. So I will require more and more accessibility or accessible websites. There's also people using mobile devices. Actually, when responsive design started and lots of application went online, it was a very good push for accessibility as well, because there's some built-in way for mobile that it's also benefit people with disability. And it's also people working under stress. So that's another situation when, I don't know if you went to buy tickets sometime and then you have that timer, you still have 5 minutes to go or 3 minutes to go, and you're trying to find your credit card or your information and so on. Also, accessibility do help with the search engine optimization. If you have a poster, for example, of the website of this event was one image, very beautifully done image without an alternative text, nobody, if they Google, will find it because the information is not there. Using unique title, unique page title, when you do a search, I worked in an organization one time, every single news release, the title of the page is news release. So when you go search something, what do you see is hundreds of results called news release, news release, news release. But if that website built in accessibility in mind to be accessible, because the page title is the very first thing that the screen reader will read to the user. So it's meant for accessibility, but a search engine can benefit from it. Raise your hand if you ever see some button look like the picture I have here. Keep your hand up, please. Assuming everyone, perfect. Raise your hand, or keep it up, let's keep it up. Now, keep your hand up if you agree with me. This is a button for someone in a wheelchair or someone that have a physical disability to open a door. Like the main reason, right? Now, keep your mind up if you don't have a physical disability, you're not a wheelchair user, but you use that button. Like, look around you now, everyone. So answer this is, who benefits from accessibility? We all do. Now, building accessible website is hard. This is my favorite one. So WebAIM conducted an accessibility evaluation on 1 million homepage. They've been doing that every year. In average, they find 50 accessibility error per page. And in average, there's over 1,000 element in each homepage. Like we're not talking Google homepages here, like lots of elements. So according to stats, user with disability will expect errors 1 in every 21 elements on the page. And keep in mind, there's an average of 1,000 of them. Now, the interesting part is over 96% of the errors are in 6 categories. So if we fix 6 issues, we will be improving 1 million homepage accessibility by like 96%. So they are low contrast text and missing alternative text for images, which is when we talk about accessibility, is the first thing that comes in mind. Blind user cannot see the image, they see alternative text and so on. Even with that, it's the number 2. Over about 50% of the 1 million homepages have that issue. So here's a table since 2019 today where we see the issue. They're still roughly the same. Some improved a little bit, some not. I'm just gonna start from the button, missing document language, 18% of the pages. So this is a bunch of characters that we not just say the language of that page. And this has helped a lot when a screen reader or anyone using speech to text, that it will tell them what's the language of the page. So this is an easy fix to do. Lots of the time where I see the issue, if someone built a website using a template, let's say in English, then they wanted to make a French version. In Canada, we have lots of bilingual websites. They will copy the site, translate the content, but without changing the document language. Empty buttons and links. 50% of the errors are empty links. I mean, there's no reason to have these. And there's a lightning talk later today about a plugin that you can remove empty elements. So please attend that one. So look at that, 27% have empty buttons and 50% empty links. Missing import label, 45%. I believe because it's home pages, maybe it's kind of the search field at the top of the page where sometimes we have a field text without having any label around it. So we know from like a US perspective, we know the top left is a logo, the top right is a search. But again, if you're looking at from screen reader, for example, and if there is no label to that form, it will be hard for the user to see it. Log contrast, we're gonna talk about it more. If you look at, we still, it's roughly the same since 2019, around 85%. And missing alternative text, actually, it's increased in 2023. So the log contrast, yeah, it's the top issue there, and there's an average of 30 instance in each page. So when I see 30 color contrast issue, it seemed to me that it's the design itself. So if you fix it one time, maybe it's the button, the navigation, and so on, then it's gonna fix all lots of the issue. So just to be clear, the low contrast here, we're talking 4.5 to 1 for normal text or 3 to 1 for large text, which is 18 point or 14 point bold text. This is according to WCAG, the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. So here's the NHL website, for example. So if you look at the website, seems okay, but if you run the wave toolbar, which is show you the color contrast errors, sorry, all the red boxes there, it's a color contrast issue. And you see at the left side, you see the color of the text and the background. So you can, on your browser, change them a little bit and you can fix that issue. So here, if you look at this one I'm showing here, I almost thought. So if you look at this one here, I change it to like black background, white text, which is easier, just to show the example. But if you look at this one here, it's also pass. What I did is I just changed that orange a little bit just to meet that color contrast. So if you look at it between this one and this one, there isn't a much a change, but I make it much, much more accessible. If you have a background that it's more like an animation or lots of content, you need to find the text that the hardest to do, and you can be creative and add like a different background. It still look good, fit with the design, but now it's more readable. For the images, in the 1 million web page, there was over 43 million images there. 22% have missing alt, like there was no alt attribute at all. And I'm not talking about just the alt that's saying it's a decorative image, like there's no alt at all. And half of them were linked. So beside the fact that the image is not descriptive, you don't know what the link is, so you cannot access it either. Over 10% have questionable alt, which is, there is an alt, but the alt is image, graphic, or the file name. So third of the images have missing or questionable alt. So we'll say, okay, it's not that bad because 2/3 of the images do have alt. But when you run any tool, if there's an alt, any text, it will say it's a pass because it doesn't recognize if that alt do describe what the image is. So imagine you're visiting a museum and this is what you see on the walls. I won't pay $20 for that museum. Or this. I heard, actually, if you didn't see that kitten, it will tell you that's a dog barking at the neighbor, which is the complete opposite. Here's a website of a train company. I'm not gonna name it. So, and that's actually actual example where I went to buy my ticket and there was one image missing for one of the institution, but they do have alt, which is good, but the alt say, clicking here will take you to the secure online backing locking page. I don't know which one it is. And all the images have the exact same alt as well. So an easier way how to do it, there's a Chrome plugin, web developer plugin. My favorite, you can go and you say display alt attributes, it will show you all the alt in the page so you can see them visually. But my favorite is I do usually replace images with alt attribute. So it will hide the image, put the alt, and try to navigate the page. Do you get the same experience? Some special mentions for the report. Skip heading level was on 42% of the pages, which is going from H1 to H3, for example. About 8% of the pages have absolutely no headings. 17% of the home pages have skip to main content. You know that link that take you, you jump the navigation. But 1 out of 6 were broken. So here's another example where it's not hard to implement. It's there, it's just not done correctly. And again, form label, about 5 million form input on a 1 million page. So the second one is accessibility is the developer responsibility only. I mean, if we talk accessibility, or web accessibility, usually we look at the web content accessibility guidelines, which is, just to be clear, web content accessibility guidelines is the bare minimum. If you go with 80%, 90%, 95%, it's not like high school where 95% is great. That's what the bare minimum you should do. You need to be confirmed to WCAG, then you need to make sure it's accessible for your user. And again, there's a talk behind WCAG this afternoon. I don't know the speakers, I just saw the agenda and I thought like these 2 talks just are amazingly in the program before here. So in WCAG, you can go and you can select, show me the criteria for I'm developing, I'm an interactive designer, I'm content creation, I'm visual design. So it's clear that it's not the developer responsibility only. One of my favorite documents is done by the government of the United States, where it's there for anyone that work on the government websites. So you can select what are you doing, what's your role, product, content, UX, visual designer, front end. And when you select your role, it will show you a page where you have a navigation on the left, and it will tell you, okay, here's the element or the part of your role that. Okay, so on the left side, sorry, I will repeat. So on the left side, it will show you a different element of content that you will create. So here I selected the heading, for example. So it will tell you why it's important, give you the step how to do it, and then there is links to video, how you can implement it. So I think this is a very good tool to get started. How I'm doing time? I'm 20 minutes. Okay. So here's usually where I spend lots of time for content creator, visual interactive. I listed some hints, but I'm gonna finish with this one. An accessible design is a design that basic, simple, and ugly. Actually, it's a myth, so it's no. So you can build a website that do have multimedia and animation, obviously, if you use an accessible multimedia player. If you have animation, if there's an animation, there's a mechanism that you can stop it. Don't have any content that flash more than 3 times and 3 seconds. For Pokemon enthusiasm here, there's one Pokemon episode that sends hundreds of kids to the hospital in China when it was released because of the seizure exposure. Unless your website is to send people to hospitals, use it. But if not, which is I doubt, don't. I will finish with this image here. This is the spiral stair at the Louvre Museum. When I visited that, I thought that the glass pyramid is an icon that I wanted to see. But when I was traveling, I had 2 kids in a stroller. And after 3 hours in the museum, they obviously sleeping and tired and so on. And my mother-in-law was with us. She hurt herself and she was using a walker. And the old timer was saying, how am I gonna climb these stairs with, I don't wanna say my kids and my mother-in-law a disability, but I'm not able to do it with them. So this is where it's go conformance to WCAG and user experience is. The conformance and the building standard, you need to have an elevator. And there's an elevator, which is we don't see in the picture. It's in the back end. But the designers here, what they did, they went above the conformance and they wanted to provide the same user experience to everyone. So in the middle of the stairs, I don't know if you can notice it, but there's a platform. And the fence or the border around the platform, it's not very high, which is allow a person in a wheelchair to see outside that platform, and the platform will go up in the middle of the spiral stair, and its exit at the same place where the stair exit. So for me, this is a good example where when you want it to be truly accessible, you need to push it beyond the conformance. Where I can more, there is meetups group, one here in Ottawa. There's in Montreal and Toronto for people that are around here. There's the Global Accessibility Awareness Day. Usually it's in May. In 2023, there was 230 events that were listed there. There's also ideas for events that you can run in your organization. And the website is available in 9 different languages. And I believe that's it for me. Thank you.